What is going on, everyone? This is Ninja Geek here, and welcome back to Road to the Best Hero in Overwatch. Offense, winners, Reaper coming in top #1 for last week. So thank you all who voted, and like I keep mentioning, the link will be in the description to vote. This week is going to be defensive heroes, but first of all, let's take a look at the results for week 1. So like I just said, Reaper takes the cake with #1. Apparently, by everyone out there who voted, he is considered the best offensive hero, whether in terms of abilities and looks as well, because that's what this poll was going by. Then we have McCree tied with Tracer in second place. And then, of course, we have Genji. I would have thought that Genji would have been a little higher just from his use within games, that everyone likes to use him. And then Pharah and Soldier are down there at the bottom. But Reaper definitely won last week's poll. This week, though, is going to be the defensive side. So let's get into the defensive heroes. So, of course, we have Bastion, Hanzo, Junkrat, Mei, Torbjorn, and Widowmaker. So for Bastion, his abilities include a configuration recon, which allows him to run around. He's mobile. It's not like his sentry form, but the gun isn't that good as his sentry gun. It fires steady bursts, I guess, of random bullets that are effective, but they're not really that effective. His effective mode is configuration sentry, as we all know. It was considered broken when the game first came out, but it's basically a Gatling gun, and it's not really that broken now if you know how to counter Bastion, of course. But the gun has like a 200 round mag, I guess. It's not even really a mag, it's just feeding rounds into the gun. And it's just really powerful, high fire rate, and you all know his configuration sentry mode. Reconfigure allows him to obviously go between these two modes, so he can stand up and walk around or go into sentry mode. That's pretty self-explanatory. Self-repair repairs his health for a short amount of time, for as long as you want it. It takes a little bit, but he cannot fire anything during that time, so that's kind of like the trade-off. And then, of course, his ultimate is tank, where he goes into charge mode and just charges everyone in a tank form. Next, we have Hanzo, which is his bow and arrow, which allows him to fire arrows. Sonic Arrow will have like a sonar tracking thing, so it kind of like tracks the enemies through walls, and you could see where they are. It's kind of like Widowmaker's pole vision ultimate, except it's like not an ultimate here. It's used it's a smaller version of that for different areas. The scatter arrow, of course, we all know the scatter arrow. It fires an arrow that ricochets other arrows off of objects, so it's very useful for shooting it at the ground or shooting it at angles and taking enemies out. And the Dragon Strike is his ultimate, which of course is a bunch of dragons that will go in a straight line and just destroy everything in that path. Moving on to Junkrat, he of course has his frag launcher, which will lob grenades in every direction, every which way that he can. Very, very useful, especially for a defensive hero. His concussion mine will basically throw a mine that allows him to jump to different places as well as his enemies to jump to different places, and the steel trap kind of goes along with that, so he can put enemies in the steel trap from the concussion mine, or he could just put the steel trap in entrances blocking enemies' way in to kind of trap them for a few seconds so that they have nowhere to go. Total Mayhem is an ability that you really just don't really look at a lot, but it basically means when he dies, he just sends out all of his grenades and it will explode right there where he dies. So if a player is stupid enough to stand on Junkrat when he dies, they will die. It's a very small minor ability that lots of people overlook, but it definitely is an ability. And of course, he has Riptire, which was actually recently buffed in the patch to deploy faster. So and we all know what Riptire is. It's the tire that goes around, and it's like an explosive tire. Of course, if it gets shot, then it doesn't go off. The next one we have is Mei. Mei has her endothermic blaster, which can fire, I think it's 200, not rounds, but ice. I don't know what you would call it. 200 rounds of ice into her enemies to freeze them, or she can use it like a long-range weapon and shoot ice shards at the enemies. Two firing modes there. With Cryo Freeze, of course, she can put herself and block herself away from everything in her little ice cube, I like to call it. Her ice wall, when she likes to show her inner side of Donald Trump, she can put up the wall to obstruct anything in its way. And Blizzard is her ultimate, which will freeze enemies in its radius, and that was also buffed as well to have a larger radius. Moving on to Torbjorn, he has his rivet gun, which can have 2 firing modes, long range or close range, which will fire lots of molten lava shards at once. So, of course, there's the different firing modes for the different distant lengths. His forge hammer will allow him to build his turrets, and it can also be used as a melee, but it's mainly used to repair his turrets. And speaking of turrets, of course, that is his main ability. He can upgrade the turrets from level 1 to level 2 with the forge hammer, place the turrets anywhere that it will allow him to. And, of course, he has his armor pack when he gets enough armor to get it, enough armor contents to get it. He can deploy armor with 50 of them. And then Molten Core is his ultimate, so of course that will allow him to just have an insane amount of health, fire faster. His turret also gets those effects as well. And then the last one is Widowmaker, so Widow's Kiss is her sniper rifle, assault rifle that can, when scoped in, is a sniper, but when not scoped in, is a very light assault rifle, I will say. The grappling hook will allow her to get anywhere she wants to, up, down, wherever, across the map, you name it. If it can grapple onto it, you can get there. The venom mine is really strategically placed so she can place it anywhere, and hopefully the enemies won't see it. It will slowly gas the enemies, so it will take little bits of their health down. And then her end for sight is what I talked about with Hanzo, where it's a recon advisor thing where it'll allow you to see enemies through walls and see enemies all highlighted in red for a short period of time. So that is it for the defensive heroes. Remember, vote down below because this is a community poll, and I want to see which defensive hero actually makes it in for next week. And that's it for this video. I'll catch you on the next one. This is Ninja Geek. I'm out. And peace.